I never planned to stay in Greyhollow. I only stopped because my car failed without warning, right where the road narrowed and the trees leaned inward, forming a tunnel of shadow that seemed older than the road itself. The engine did not sputter or struggle. It simply stopped, clean and final, as if it had reached a destination I had not chosen. I tried the key again, slower this time, listening for any sound of resistance, but there was nothing. My phone showed no signal, not even a single emergency bar flickering on and off. The radio dissolved into static the moment I turned the key again, the sound flattening into a dull, endless hiss. The silence outside the car felt unnatural, not empty, but controlled, like a sound that had been muted rather than removed. When I stepped out, the air felt warm and stale, pressing against my skin as if it had been trapped there for years without movement. It carried no scent of soil, grass, or rain. Greyhollow stood ahead of me, quiet and carefully arranged, its streets stretching forward with unnatural neatness. Houses lined the road with clean windows and intact doors. Porch lights glowed softly, steady and patient, even though the sky still held the fading color of early evening. Curtains hung neatly behind glass. Nothing looked broken, nothing looked neglected. The town did not look abandoned. It looked paused, like time itself had stopped mid-thought. As I walked deeper into the streets, the absence of life became impossible to ignore. There were no voices, no footsteps, no distant engines. Not even insects disturbed the air. My shoes echoed too clearly against the pavement, each step ringing out longer than it should have. The sound of my own breathing felt intrusive, as if I were violating a rule I did not understand. With every block I passed, a strange awareness pressed against me, not like being watched by eyes, but like being noticed by attention itself. It felt as if the town was listening carefully, memorizing me. I tried to calm myself by focusing on small details. Mailboxes stood upright and freshly painted. Cars were parked carefully in driveways, some with doors unlocked, others sealed tight. A few houses had lights on inside, illuminating empty living rooms and untouched furniture. Televisions were frozen on silent screens. Plates still rested on dining tables. Cups stood beside sinks, some half-filled, some already cold. Shoes waited by doors. There were no signs of panic, no signs of struggle, no signs of escape. Whatever had happened here had not arrived with chaos. It had arrived gently, patiently. That was when I noticed the clocks. At first, it was just one, a digital clock glowing faintly inside a parked car. Then another, a round wall clock visible through a kitchen window. As I continued walking, I began to actively look for them. Every place that could hold time did. Store clocks, microwave displays, alarm clocks beside empty beds, even a broken wristwatch lying on a sidewalk. They all showed the same time. 9:17. Every single one. I told myself it had to be a power issue, a synchronized failure caused by a surge or outage, something technical that I did not understand. But fear grows best in the space between explanations, and that space was widening fast. I checked my phone again. The screen flickered weakly. The time had stopped updating. It read 9:17, frozen and unmoving, no matter how long I stared at it. My chest tightened. I became aware of my heartbeat, slow and deliberate, as if it too had learned to keep time with the town. Eventually, I found the local radio station near the center of Greyhollow. The building looked older than the surrounding houses, its brick walls darkened by age but carefully maintained. The sign above the door was clean and unbroken. The door itself was unlocked, opening without resistance. Inside, the air smelled of dust, metal, and something faintly electrical. The lights were on. The equipment hummed quietly. A microphone stood in the center of the studio, positioned perfectly, angled toward an empty chair, as if someone had just stepped away for a moment. Along one wall were shelves filled with cassette tapes. Each one was carefully labeled with a date and a short description, written in neat, familiar handwriting. They were arranged in perfect chronological order, without gaps or mistakes. I noticed that none of the labels showed weekends. The most recent tape was dated 3 days ago. That alone made my stomach tighten. But when I read the name written beneath the date, the air seemed to leave my lungs. Greyhollow Daily Log Recorder, M. Hale. My name is Michael Hale. I laughed quietly, forcing the sound out of myself because the alternative was panic. The laughter echoed strangely through the studio, sounding hollow and misplaced. It was possible, I told myself, that someone else shared my name. Rare, but possible. Still, my hands shook as I placed the tape into the recorder, my fingers feeling distant, as if they no longer fully belonged to me. When the recording began, something inside me went cold. The voice was mine. Not similar, not close, perfectly identical, the same tone, the same rhythm, even the same slight pause before certain words, as if the voice needed time to think before continuing. "If you're hearing this," the voice said calmly, "then you didn't listen the first time." I stepped back, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. The voice did not sound afraid. It did not sound confused. It sounded tired, like someone who had already explained everything too many times. "Greyhollow is not empty," it continued. "It is full of echoes, and echoes learn." I stayed in the station that night because I could not bring myself to return to the streets. The idea of walking through that listening silence again felt unbearable. I sat in the dark studio, surrounded by equipment that hummed softly, as if breathing. Sleep came in short, broken moments. Each time I closed my eyes, I felt pressure in my thoughts, like something tracing the edges of my awareness without entering it. I dreamed of walking down the same street again and again, each time shorter, each time narrower, until the houses pressed together and there was nowhere left to go. At exactly 9:17, the lights flickered once and went out. The silence that followed was absolute. Even my breathing seemed to disappear into it. For a moment, I thought the town itself had stopped existing. Then the tape recorder clicked. Another cassette began to play. "Day 2, my voice said. "I tried to leave today. The road led me back." Memory caught up with the words, tightening around my chest. Earlier that day, I had tried to leave Greyhollow. I had walked until my legs burned, until the houses thinned and the trees closed in. I remembered the brief hope I felt when the road seemed to stretch forward endlessly. And then, without realizing how, I was back at the same place. "Welcome to Greyhollow." The population number beneath it had been scratched away, carved deep into the sign, as if the town could no longer count itself, or no longer wanted to remember. Over the following days, I listened to more tapes. Each one described actions I had not yet taken but soon recognized myself doing. Searching empty homes, listening to walls, counting steps between streetlights to stay focused, writing strange symbols on walls that I did not remember learning but somehow understood instinctively. The tapes were not predicting the future. They were documenting a cycle that refused to end. Time lost its shape. The sky never fully darkened and never fully brightened. The clocks never moved. Sounds repeated in the same order each day, like a broken recording playing endlessly. A distant door closing, a faint electrical hum, the soft click of a streetlight turning on, even though it was never truly dark. I began hearing my voice before I spoke. Sometimes it whispered my thoughts seconds before they formed. Sometimes it corrected my memories, gently reminding me of details I was sure I remembered differently. It never argued. It never raised its tone. It sounded patient, reassuring, as if it had all the time in the world and I had none. That was when I finally understood. Greyhollow was not a town. It was a loop, a system built from repetition. The more I walked its streets, the better it learned how I walked. The more I thought, the better it learned how I thought. Fear sharpened it. Memory fed it. Awareness completed it. The tapes were not warnings. They were instructions. On what I believe was the final day, I found the last tape. It had no label. When I played it, my voice sounded different. Calm, empty, resolved. If you are hearing this, it said, then you already know. Greyhollow cannot exist without a voice. Silence does not last. Memory always returns. I looked at the microphone in front of me. The red recording light blinked slowly, like a heartbeat that did not belong to me. I felt my body move without asking permission. My hands rested on the desk, steady and certain. I leaned forward and began to speak, describing the town, the silence, the clocks, the feeling of being noticed. The words came easily, as if they had always been waiting. Somewhere far away, someone will listen to this recording. They will say the voice is calm, easy to follow, perfect for late-night listening. They will never know that Greyhollow is not a story. It is a place that listens. And now through this voice, it is listening to you.